Here are some CM strategies that we've been using in my math classroom. So this first activity included using the problem-solving summary template provided on the EL Achieve website. From this template, I added a real-world problem involving integers for my 7th grade math classes. The students worked in groups to come up with a plan to solve this problem up here. So they used the frames on the second page to devise their plan. So their summary is listed here, 1 through 5. And then they used their plan to help them solve the problem. So their solution was then inserted here. In these slides, I have embedded the sentence stems into the response boxes to help the students get used to responding in complete sentences and kind of to help guide their thinking. So, for example, in this problem, they have a real-world problem here and a tape diagram that they're matching. So I used the sentence stems embedded in the response box for the students to kind of guide their thinking on how they would explain matching this tape diagram to the real-world problem. Another space would be on problem 2, where they would use the sentence stems I noticed and I wonder to explain their thinking about what's going on in these 2 tape diagrams. So here in the teacher view, you can see some of the responses that the students had using the I notice and the I wonder sentence stems. We also had responses in the last slide that I showed you where they're using the stems to explain their thinking on how the tape diagram represents the real-world problem.
So this is the Desmos assignment. It says a car pulls into a driveway. Select the best graph that matches the statement. A car pulls into a driveway. Describe how your graph fits the story of a car pulling into a driveway. So they would look at the graph choices, and if they chose this graph, they have to explain their thinking. So this is where they were instructed to paste the sentence frame. That way they had choices and they could choose, okay, I know that the line is going down, so I will choose going down. The line is going down, or they could have said decreasing, which means that, related back to the story, okay, well, I know that the story says that the car is pulling into a driveway, so the line is going down, which means that the car is pulling into the driveway. More advanced students may have said something about which means the speed is going down.
So the first set of artifacts is the use of sentence stems to get my students comfortable with using academic language. So the objective for the lesson was for students to be able to identify increasing and decreasing slope activity on qualitative graphs. And so with this particular lesson, my students were reviewing various graphs, qualitative graphs, and then they were determining which of the scenarios matched the graph. Once they identified which scenario matched the graph, then they were to explain the activity on the graph. So the sentence stems kind of helps them put into words what they see, the correlations that they see between the graph and the scenario. So here are a few examples of student responses.
One of the tools we use in our class are Frere models when introducing new vocabulary. the students find this to be easier to use than just having a definition of a word, because it allows them to see examples and non-examples. And then it also allows them not to just have a definition of the word, but some characteristics. Here is a student sample of a Frere model that we've used for some vocabulary when we were solving equations. Again, we use the Frere models when introducing new vocabulary. As you can see, the student is able to write out all the words and then draw the Frere model, and they use this in their student notebook so that they always have access to it. Another tool from the EL Achieve that we use in our class would be the ways to express our thinking. We are currently in the process of comparing and contrasting ideas as well as explaining and describing. We will be moving into that topic starting next week. So I will be going to the EL Achieve to grab one of the concept maps to help with them being able to describe the difference between a proportional and non-proportional relationship.
Now, one of the issues that I have encountered that might be common to a lot of us teachers is that sometimes we get a group of kids that are shy, they don't want to talk about what they're learning, and so it's kind of hard to diagnose and assess what their level of comprehension is. So I've had this problem for a while, but recently our school has introduced us to constructive meaning practices through the EL Achieve program. And I gotta say that I've seen a lot of progress. You see, through this program, we're exposing our students to what they call miles on the tongue. It's for fluency. The students are provided with sentence frames, structures to help them articulate what they are learning. And so we are getting greater depth. We are having students shine more because we have students that now have more tools that gives them confidence to speak out in class. So in conclusion, what I would want to say is that the EL Achieve testimonial that I want to give is that my students are being more confident in answering questions, they're volunteering more, they're participating in group settings at a greater capacity, and they are more precise with their wording, and you could see and assess their level of comprehension a lot better. As a teacher, I would highly recommend this program to anyone.